Well, it is exactly at the top of the hour. Welcome to KBC's Lunchtime News. We do have the latest here in the country and beyond our borders. So talk us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Lensa Odingo. And we start in Europe, where calls to include Africa as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council grew louder in Oslo, Norway, during the ongoing Oslo Forum 2026 high-level public event. President William Ruto says that there can be no greater paradox than a global peace architecture that excludes the very regions where peace building and conflict prevention are most urgently needed.
How are you? Very good.
On his last day in Oslo, Norway,
Sudan remains one of the gravest catastrophes of our time. Yet diplomacy has struggled to gain traction. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, peace has remained elusive despite initiative after initiative. In Somalia and across the Sahel, groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda and Islamic State continue to exploit fragile governance and expand their reach.
President William Ruto once more advocated for Africa's permanent inclusion into the United Nations Security Council.
A peace architecture that excludes the very regions where peace is most urgently needed cannot effectively deliver peace. Reform of the Security Council and of a wider multilateral institutions is therefore no longer a question of fairness alone. It is a question of effectiveness, legitimacy, and relevance.
Speaking at the Oslo Forum 2026 high-level public event, the head of state noted that the council frequently deals with the issues from the continent, yet it holds no seat at the table to offer meaningful resolutions to the conflicts and prevention measures instituted in the African continent.
Africa does not seek to remain a perpetual item on the world's agenda. We seek to be co-authors of the global order and equal partners in shaping the rules, not merely subjects expected to follow them.
Moreover, President William Ruto has called on Norwegian entrepreneurs to take advantage of the many opportunities in Kenya as they pursue business in Africa.
Now we are looking for a different relationship. We are looking for a win-win outcome. We want companies here leveraging on the competitive advantage that you have, technology, expertise, and capital.
There are 16 or so landlocked countries in Africa. So pitching with Kenya, you'll be becoming one of the very critical partners in unlocking that potential in the whole of Africa.
Since its inception, Norfund had invested around $600 million in Kenya.
Meanwhile, President William Ruto has arrived in Finland for a two-day state visit following President Alexander Stubbs' invitation. According to Ruto, the visit will seek to deepen economic ties, strengthening partnerships in technology, digitization, clean energy, innovation and education. And now to a developing story, I want to take you live to Jogoo House, where the Cabinet Secretary for Education, that is Migoso Gamba, is currently addressing members of the Fourth Estate in regards to students' unrest and, of course, the status of the education sector. Let's listen in.
This is to inform the country that all perpetrators who have been found to be involved in such actions will be dealt with firmly and in accordance with the law. As a ministry, we have undertaken preliminary reviews of most of the cases that have occurred. From our analysis and from the reports across the country, less than 2% of the country's senior schools have been affected by this unrest, meaning that most of our schools, around 98%, remain stable and continue with their normal operations. Most of the schools that are affected are boarding senior schools, with day senior schools largely proceeding with their activities uninterrupted. We have so far received reports of unrest affecting 204 senior schools across the country, and of those 204, 59 have since returned to schools and resumed their studies, with more continuing to return. Learners in grade 1 to 9 in our institutions are proceeding with their studies with no interruption reported. As it were, therefore, our basic education system is running smoothly except for the disruption in the boarding senior schools that are mentioned. We take this early opportunity to commend the majority of our learners in schools across the country for remaining disciplined and committed to their studies. We also commend the heads of these institutions, the teachers and the parents for guiding their learners and ensuring stability and continuity in school operations. We call upon them to keep up the good work to ensure that these institutions are not affected like the others. The unrest appears to be driven by a variety of factors, including leadership challenges in institutions, learner anxiety and examination-related stress, poor school conditions, especially in boarding sections, alcohol and drug abuse, strenuous school routines, peer influence and copycat behavior, with learners demanding to be released early from school for various reasons. Heads of institutions are reminded that it is their statutory and moral responsibility and duty to ensure that any challenges in their institutions are addressed in good time and that the safety and security of our learners are guaranteed. The government is keen on addressing the matter of unrest in our schools effectively and comprehensively. This worrying pattern of unrest summons all of us to engage in collective reflection about our children and their future. It is our shared responsibility as education sector players, ranging from the government, the parents, the guardians, our leaders and community leaders, policymakers, school heads, and teachers, to ensure that our education system serves the best interests of our children. It is our duty, and I dare say a sacrosanct one, to nurture our children in the values and virtues that grow them into law-abiding and responsible citizens that will continue to contribute positively to the development of our country and not to destruction. Following due consultations within the government and other stakeholders, we wish therefore to announce the following measures going forward. To establish and address underlying causes of this perennial challenge of student unrest, we shall be forming a multi-stakeholder team to review the causes of unrest and make recommendations on strategies for stemming this challenge. The midterm break for the second term of the 2026 school year will take place as scheduled from the 24th of June 2026 to the 28th of June 2026. Parents and guardians are urged to use the break to spend time with their children and provide guidance and support for them. Any grievances or concerns should be articulated appropriately and shared with schools and other relevant authorities for action. Schools shall urgently convene consultative parents' associations meetings to review the state of affairs and learners' welfare in their respective schools. The schools shall strengthen safety measures and address any concerns and grievances that learners may have raised before the end of the half term. The schools shall also intensify guidance and counseling programs and strengthen learners' grievances handling mechanisms. County and sub-county education officers shall undertake targeted safety assessments and audits and monitor institutions that are considered to be at risk. Starting next academic year, the ministry shall rationalize the school calendar to ensure that the terms are balanced and that the second term is not as long as it's been. We shall continue to provide you with updates as we address this matter. Thank you. Asanteni sana, ni hayo tulikuwa nayo kwa leo.
Just a question already. Wahomo from KBC TV. You have indicated that midterm will start 24th June, but walking around town, we see very many learners. They seem to be going home, and there's a feeling out here that probably some teachers might have taken advantage of what is happening in schools to send learners away. Maybe there might not be a directive from the government to do that. Is that something that has come to your desk?
No, it hasn't. We've had situations where learners have requested that they be released for one reason or another, and the heads of institutions and the BOMs have taken the decision in their own assessment to release these students so that they avoid a situation where there will be destruction of property or loss of lives. So in these particular instances where the heads of institutions assess the situation individually, may decide it is a good thing to release the students at that point. But the directive we are giving is that do not use what is happening as an opportunity to send students home where there is no situation or there is no unrest or there is no indication or there is no tension. So what we are trying to do is just tell all of us that we should work together to ensure that we maintain school operations and calm in our institutions. We are calling upon the teachers, upon the parents, upon the community, the leadership, everybody in the sector to ensure that we have a situation where we have calmness in schools and students undertaking their normal programs. But where an assessment is done individually by the individual heads of institutions, they realize that something might happen. They are using their own protocols. They are allowed to make that decision and send them home. And then they would give them an opportunity to come back. Like there are situations where the students indicated that they feel that they are tired, they want to go home, and they were threatening, for example, to ban an institution. There are situations where the assessment is done and the teachers would say, let these guys go. But what has happened is they are now coming back, and in most of the schools, normalcy has resumed.
I have two questions. Number one is that the students who are already home, will they also go for break during the 24th? Because some of them are returning this week. So are they going to go back again, or that will depend on the school? And question number two, there's a feeling that we are sometimes being reactive, because remember in Russia and what happened, and then we had a multi-agency team investigation. So what did we do with that? And this time round, for example, we feel most of these issues is because of the infrastructure in the schools, the domes and how they are built. Are we going to see demolition and rebuilding of schools in terms of now making sure that we have good windows and all those things?
Let me start with your second question. As I indicated, there are a variety of reasons why this unrest has happened and has been happening. And what we want to do is set up a multi-sectoral team to review the whole spectrum to find out what really needs to be done once and for all to resolve these issues, so that we avoid a situation where there is a reactivity like you mentioned. Because this is not a one solution fits all, because the reasons that lead to the students going on strike or showing unrest are various. Some it is pressure, some it's copycat, some it's peer pressure, some is exams, some is poor conditions in institutions. It is not one thing that has caused this. So that's why we are saying let's have a platform where we can receive all these issues and address specific strategies to these challenges, including the issues of infrastructure. So we are going to create that platform, that team to collate that process so that we can have a coherent and predictable strategy that will ensure that we do not have this problem going forward. In terms of the students who have already gone home and they are coming back, those cases will be treated on a case-per-case basis by the heads of those institutions. They have students, for example, who've said they are not part of this process of unrest, so they are continuing with those studies. There are others who have come back, and when they are coming back, they're being given some conditions. Some are very stringent. So there are processes that are being undertaken. But what we are saying is that with grievances that you have, present your grievances and let them be solved amicably, let them be dealt with together with the institutions so that you avoid a situation where you take the law into your own hands and start causing destruction or anything like that. So thank you very much.
One last question. Maybe second term is just 2 weeks longer than the first term.
Yes.
So how is adjusting the second term?
You see, first term is 12 weeks. Second term is 14 weeks, and third term is, I think, 9 weeks. So we're now going to rationalize that and probably have 12 weeks across the board. We are working on that, but from next academic year, the terms will be rationalized as part of the reforms that we are doing to engage, to ensure that our students do not get exhausted when they are in school. That was the last question. Thank you.
Just joining us, that is a brief from the Education Cabinet Secretary, that is Julius Migoso Gamba, on the current status of the education sector. He has just informed us and the members of the public who are just watching us right now that 2% of senior schools were affected following that particular unrest. 98% of the schools are unaffected, and mostly some of the institutions that have witnessed this particular unrest is the boarding of senior schools, where 204 institutions have been affected and 59 so far out of the 204 have returned back to school, with the day senior school is unaffected. Now, some of the factors that the Cabinet Secretary has pointed out is lack of leadership, anxiety, poor infrastructure, alcohol and drug abuse, and peer pressure among that particular institutions. Now, some of the measures the Education Ministry has just announced is that they will establish a multi-stakeholder team to address that particular unrest, and of course the midterm break will be on the 24th of June to the 28th of June. They'll also take measures in terms of safety concerns within those particular institutions and rationalize the school academic calendar in the next year, so as to ensure that the students are not fatigued. That is the latest. Our very own Joseph Ohongo will tell you more in our subsequent bulletins. Now, the government has set aside 140 billion shillings to boost the United Nations office in Nairobi's expansion project. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki says that Kenya will host more United Nations agencies, adding that the United Nations, a global body, has separately allocated 44 billion shillings towards the expansion project. While hosting President of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, that is Annalena Baerbock, the DP said Kenya considered it's a great privilege for the UN to prove its beliefs in the country by expanding its offices in Nairobi, thus elevating Kenya to the same level as other headquarters elsewhere in the developed world.
Ongoing $340 million UNON capital expansion project has also been supported by the government of Kenya, so that as you modernize, upgrade, and expand the facilities of UNON, the government of Kenya has invested local resources to a tune of $1.1 billion into matching infrastructure. This significant state investment has fundamentally upgraded the road network, security frameworks, and sustainable utility systems around the Gigiri diplomatic enclave, aligning the campus in Gigiri with global net zero climate goals. Against this backdrop of a highly fragile global security landscape marked by a troubling resurgence of militarization and the erosion of traditional disarmament frameworks, Kenya continues to serve as a vital anchor of regional stability.
And in other news, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru is urging voters in Ol Kalou to support a candidate aligned with the government to accelerate development in the constituency. While drumming up support for UDA candidate Samuel Mushina, Waiguru cautioned voters against supporting opposition candidates, claiming that doing so will distance the area from opportunities available through the national government. Waiguru expressed confidence that Samuel Mushina will continue the development agenda initiated by the late MP David Kiaraho and help address challenges facing the constituency, including inadequate roads, electricity connectivity and access to clean water.
Mchague kiongozi ambaye anashirikiana na serikali, kwa sababu serikali ambayo iko hapa sasa ni hii ya UDA. Na kama mnataka maji, mnataka stima, mnataka barabara kwa mwaka huu, chagueni mbunge ambaye ataweza kugonga milango afunguliwe kwa serikali.
Sisi tunataka maendeleo saa hii na hata kesho yake tutataka maendeleo.
Manifesto yangu iko na mambo matatu. Jambo la kwanza ambalo mimi ninasema katika manifesto yangu ni maneno ya university.
Back to the education sector, where education stakeholders, child protection experts and peace-building organizations have raised concerns over the rising cases of school fires across the country, linking the incidents to broader social and behavioral challenges facing young people. The concerns were raised during a stakeholder forum in Mombasa County. Participants emphasized the need for stronger support systems, both at home and in schools, saying youth require mentorship, guidance and opportunities for positive engagement. Officials from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission called for stronger collaboration between schools, communities and government agencies to promote peace and dialogue among learners. Child protection experts also urge parents to take a more active role in guiding children, warning that limited supervision and harmful online influences are increasingly shaping negative behavior.
Zile shule ambazo kama zimetufanya maafa mengi ambayo moto umetokea vile ni kwamba hazina zile amani club mwamko. Kwa hivyo tumeona kwamba ni muhimu kama tume tuangalie especially katika region yetu, na pia ni vizuri zaidi tushinikize swala kama hili ili tulete amani katika society yetu na katika pia mwelekeo wetu.
When you look at our children as a product of the environment they come from, then the programs by Search for Common Ground speak to that.
Engage students in discussions on peace building and also just equipping their skills as a whole. So for us, we see this partnership that has been very crucial for us to reach not only the youths, the students and the teachers, for us to, have a more broader reach in the project.
Still on the same, education stakeholders and leaders are raising concerns over the increasing cases of student unrest and indiscipline in Kenyan schools. The leaders are calling for a long-lasting solution to the vice, which they say has left a trail of death and destruction of school property.
Stakeholders and school principals from senior schools in Bomachoge Borabu constituency held a consultative meeting at Mokubo Senior School to address rising cases of school unrest. Speaking during the meeting, Bomachoge Borabu Sub-County Director of Education Gladys Lepishoi said measures have been put in place to enhance the safety of learners and teachers. Lepishoi also urged school boards of management to hold regular dialogue with learners to address their concerns and prevent loss of lives and property.
Bodi zetu za mashule sihakikisha ya kwamba kuna mikutano yanafanywa, na pia kuna wale ambao wanahusika na mambo ya usalama, ili kuhakikisha ya kwamba kuna usalama. Pia tunahitaji kuhakikisha ya kwamba kuna usalama. Pia tunahitaji kuhakikisha ya kwamba kuna usalama. Pia tunahitaji kuhakikisha ya kwamba kuna usalama. ili tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba mashule yetu yanazingatia ile usalama ambao unahitajika.
Elsewhere, Ikolomani Member of Parliament Bernard Shinali has called on the Cabinet Secretary for Education and the Principal Secretary to resign over the rising cases of student unrest and dormitory fires reported in schools across the country.
Hao watoto munasikia wanaleta furuku kwa shule ni kwa sababu saa hii walifungua shule wameketi mpaka wakati huu hajaenda half term. Hiyo waziri wetu wa education, angalia kama uwezi kazi upanduke.
Meanwhile, a section of women representatives has proposed the return of corporal punishment in schools. Speaking at a fundraiser for women's groups in Samburu County, area women representative Pauline Lenguris and her narrow counterpart Rebecca Tonkoi called on parents to be at the forefront in nurturing their children with values.
Na hata mimi naomba walimu tutengeneze uhusiano na watoto wetu katika mashule yetu, ili kwamba watoto wanapokuwa na shida wakuwe free kwenda ku approach mwalimu yake yoyote na aweze kuambia kwamba kuna jambo ambayo watoto wanapanga.
Tunasema, mimi nikiwa katika kamati ya elimu, we are going to return the cane in schools,
and I call upon our teachers to be vigilant, na ninaomba wasasi wetu pamoja na viongozi tuongee na watoto wetu. Counseling department ikuwe very strong in our school.
Lurambi Member of Parliament Bishop Titus Kamala, weighing in on the matter, plans to bring a bill in Parliament seeking to abolish boarding schools in Kenya.
Let us just bring our children at home. Hawa wazazi pia who are escaping responsibility wachunge watoto. Sasa mimi nikienda bunge naenda kuweka mswada to abolish boarding schools.
Now, the Minister of Education, that is Julius Migos Ogamba, has spoken to those particular issues and, of course, will be tackling them in our subsequent bulletins. In regards to the school midterm, they've said on the 24th of June to the 28th of June has been announced at Jogoo House. Now, we're taking a short commercial break. When we come back, we still have more for you on the other side.
Jana nimepata ripoti ya kwamba kuna watoto wawili wamepotea. Yoyote anaingia atoe jina lake la ID pale na mgonjwa anaenda kumwangalia.
Tuandike kila kitu chini chenye tunahitaji ili tulipe deni ya Shylock.
Unafanya nini huko?
Sisi askari watu ulize maswali tukiingia places. Hiyo tu ndo the only way ya kujitoa kwa hizi mashida na kutoa pia familia yangu.
Ukiongea na Ufambe kuhusu story zangu, ilikuwa ni juu unanijali ama ni juu ulikuwa na feel guilty ya vile wewe na budako mlinifanyia?
Niko safe, niko karibu na wewe. Wachanga zako na wewe, wacha tumwambie.
Bado uko hapa. Toka!
Toka! Ukisikia kitu nipigie simu. Sawa sawa?
Yeah, you know, got you.
We'll find them.
When, Marvin? Surely when?
Lishan? Amefanya?
Hawajakwambia bado?
Kuambiwa nini?
Kama hawajakwambia, sifai kuzungumza kitu yote.
Nini kinaendelea huku? I've been trying to call you since yesterday. And neither you nor Marvin is answering my calls. Ako wapi yo Marvin? Paul, Lishan was kidnapped yesterday.
Aki mom, usipigie polisi, mom. Mom.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. To more news now, Kenya and Slovakia have expressed their commitment to strengthening bilateral relations and deepening strategic partnerships. Slovakia Foreign Affairs Minister, that is Juraj Balanya, and Information and Communication Technology Principal Secretary PS Steven Isabokim has says the partnership in ICT reflects the strong relations between the nations on strengthening cybersecurity. They pledge to continue investing in security and resilience of digital futures. They were speaking at the Kenya Schools of Government during the Cyber Game Award 2026 ceremony.
We really appreciate His Excellency the Minister for Foreign and European Affairs and also the Slovakian embassy here that have actually facilitated youth to actually skill around cybersecurity, to deepen their capability, broaden that now to include broader ICT between the two sort of ministries and government to actually deepen. And as you know, really for us, ICT is where the growth is coming in this country. And the President has demonstrated that by the investment we have put in. So the best we can do is also borrow best practice and also work with our partners from the globe, including Slovakia.
Kenya is raising when it comes to digitalization, innovation, and also cybersecurity. And we feel that we can contribute somehow also into this challenge. So that's why we signed MOU between the Slovak Security National Authority and NC4 on the other side, and cooperating with a small project like this cyber game for the young people generation. And I think this is the basis for future cooperation.
Also, calls to include Africa as a permanent member of the United Nations Council grew louder in Oslo. We do apologize for that. That particular story, we had taken it. But on the China Human Film Week, Kenya and China are strengthening cultural and creative ties through film following the launch of a China Hunan Film Week in Nairobi County. The three-day event bringing together filmmakers, diplomats and government officials is part of activities marking the 2026 China-Africa Year of People-to-People exchanges. Here's more.
Cinema, culture and diplomacy took center stage in Nairobi as Kenya hosted the China Hunan Film Week Africa Kenya edition. The event has brought a curated selection of Chinese film to Kenyan audience in a move aimed at deepening cultural understanding and expanding creative industry cooperation between China and Africa. Chinese officials say the initiative forms part of celebrations marking the China-Africa Year of People-to-People exchanges in 2026 and the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and African countries. The screenings also build on growing cultural engagement between Hunan province and African countries following last year's China-Africa Film Week held in Changshan.
True friends feel close even when they are thousands of miles apart. Let's use film as a bridge to deepen friendship, enhance mutual learning between civilizations, and build an even brighter future together.
Kenyan leaders describe the Film Week as an important platform for collaboration between filmmakers, producers, and creative industry players from both countries.
This week is not just about screening brilliant cinematic art works from Hunan. It is about building bridges. It is about creating opportunities for Kenyan and Chinese filmmakers to collaborate, share technical expertise, and co-create stories that resonate globally.
The Kenya Film Commission says the partnership could open opportunities for co-productions, technology transfer, and investment in Kenya's growing creative economy.
Kenya's creative economy is booming, and the Kenya Film Commission is fully committed to positioning our country as a premier filming destination and a hub for international co-production.
Officials from Kenya's State Department for Youth Affairs and Creative Economy also emphasize the role of film in preserving culture and connecting societies.
This Film Week, therefore, represents much more than a series of screenings. It represents an opportunity for dialogue, learning, collaboration. It gives Kenya audiences a chance to experience the rich cultural heritage of Hunan province, while also opening doors for filmmakers, scholars, students, and the industry practitioners from both our countries to engage with one another.
Chinese embassy in Kenya officials linked the event to broader people-to-people exchanges between Africa and China under the Global Civilization Initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping.
So we sincerely hope that through films, literature, music, dance, martial arts, and many other forms of cultural exchanges, the peoples from China and Africa can come to know each other better and open a new chapter of cooperation based on culture engagement.
Joseph Wahungu for Lunchtime News.
Now to a rather tragic turn of events, 5 people have died in a tragic road accident involving a matatu and a lorry at the Makotelo area along Webuye-Malaba Highway. According to residents, the accident occurred on Wednesday at around 12 a.m. Bungoma North OCPD William Leting said those who died included 4 males and 1 female.
Tukasikia tu nje tukauliza mbona nje kumenuka hivyo kwa hii barabara yetu. Tukasema anyway, wacha tuende tukonfirm nini mbaya kwa barabara. Tukatoka mwapurangetu tukakimbia tukafika kwa barabara. Kufika kwa barabara hapo tukapata Eldoret Shuttle na hiyo trailer imefurukana, trailer imefuruta hiyo Shuttle paka kwa mahindi huko chini.
Hii barabara imekuwa mbaya sana ukitokezea Mabanga, sababu hapa Makotelo katikati ya Bukembe na Mabanga kuna mteremko ni kali sana. Sasa tunaomba serikali ikitusaidia ikaweza kutuwekea matuta at least hao madereva wakitoka Mabanga, sababu ni mteremko, hiyo speed wanaweza wakareduce.
Elsewhere, detectives in Kirinyaga County intercepted a vehicle transporting 2 slaughtered cows and arrested a suspect in what is believed to be a livestock theft syndicate. Kirinyaga County Criminal Investigations Officer Justice Imana said officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI in Mwea East, acting on a tip-off, launched a pursuit and closed in on the driver who tried to flee. The suspect was taken to the Wanguru police station and will remain in custody to pave a way for further investigations.
Blood-stained panga and some clothes. He is currently being held at the station and we will be arraigning him in court tomorrow to seek time as we endeavor to establish the owners of the seized motor vehicles.
In other news, parents and guardians of children with disabilities have been urged to register them with the National Council for Persons with Disabilities to enable them access essential support services and opportunities aimed at improving their quality of life. Speaking during the groundbreaking ceremony of a Mali Integrated School in Karen, Chairperson Oshiriki Wema Foundation, that is Tessie Mudavadi, noted that the registration is a critical step towards ensuring children with disabilities receive the recognition, assistance and protection they need to thrive in this society.
For too long, children on the spectrum were seen through a lens of limitation rather than possibility. And we have seen today that we have children who have speech, we have children who can sing, we have children who can play the instrument, and our teachers can attest to us that we have children who are sitting in classrooms and doing examination and learning just like any other child out there.
Today, your presence is not incidental. You are stakeholders in our children's future. As we leave here, we look with favor at Pauline Wamukoa for the very bold step she has taken to not only cushion our special children, but to educate them under an integrated system.
And now let's get down to business. Kenya is in talks with the World Bank over a new development policy operation DPO loan program that is expected to be presented to the multilateral lenders board for approval soon. Central Bank of Kenya, that is Governor Dr. Kamau Thuge, says the World Bank has also not made any disbursement under the proposed emergency financing facility as discussions are still ongoing. In his post-monetary policy committee meeting briefing, Dr. Thuge said Kenya expects both funding arrangements to be finalized soon for budgetary support.
We are actually in the process of discussing with the World Bank, as you know, on the DPO, and we hope that the DPO will go to the board of the World Bank for discussion fairly shortly. Similarly, there hasn't been any disbursements regarding the emergency financing. That has not started yet, but of course it's an ongoing discussion. But we hope also that will be finalized quite shortly.
Shelter Afrique Development Bank says it is eyeing 10 trillion shillings Africa housing market as it transitions to a fully fledged multilateral development bank. Shelter Afrique Development Bank Managing Director, that is Thieno Habib Han, says there is a demand for 53 million housing units on the continent and there is need to forge strong alliances to mobilize adequate capital. The lender unveiled its new brand identity and logo reflecting its transition into a multilateral development bank focused on housing and urban development across Africa. The move marks a key stage in the institution's evolution as it expands its role in addressing the continent's housing and infrastructure needs. The new identity was unveiled during the bank's 45th annual general meeting in Rabat, Morocco. The Credit Bank Kenya has earmarked 1 billion shillings to support small and medium-sized enterprises seeking to boost business expansion, job creation and economic growth. Credit Bank Chief Executive Manager of Operations and Branches, that is Charles Kibara, says the lender is keen on supporting business manage cash flows and navigate market volatility. The informal sector accounts for over 18 million jobs, highlighting its importance in creating employment and supporting economic activity.
Our focus is to work with our customers so that we can help them to scale. We can help them in their cash management and cash flow management so that they can meet their day-to-day financial needs. Over the last 1 year, we've invested over 1 billion to boost SMEs all over the country. We are in 16 branches in Kenya in all the main towns. And we are working with the SMEs there, the corporates and their staff.
Credit Bank extended the grace and has been extending the grace to allow me serve my customers, to allow me serve my suppliers, so that I'm able to do this seamlessly without any hassles or any issues. Because by the end of this year, we are looking at closing with 12 branches. End of next year, we need to close with 52 branches.
Now, Brookside Dairy has paid smallholder farmers 255 million shillings in incentives for meeting milk supply targets on quality and quantity over the last 6 months. Brookside Dairy General Manager for Milk Procurement, Emmanuel Kabaki, says the program is intended to encourage better animal husbandry practices, improved farm sanitation and higher quality milk production. The processor is conducting farmer training and capacity building initiatives to modernize dairy farming and strengthen the dairy value chain.
It's something that we want to continue, and we want to increase the opportunities for these farmers to access even additional goods and even services through this program. We have continued to support our farmers in terms of fodder establishment. Last year, we gave out super napier cuttings and sweet potato vines to our dairy farmers so that they can establish the same in their farms. And over and above just giving the cuttings, we have trained these farmers on how to properly establish fodder for their cows.
On the international front, the EU has told Meta that it must allow AI chatbots operated by rival firms to use WhatsApp for free. The European Commission said the firm will need to maintain that access while it concluded an antitrust investigations into the tech giant's decision to bar access for AI providers and other than Meta AI on the messaging platform. Meta has reacted angrily, accusing the Commission of regulatory overreach. It says it will appeal.
The European Union said it began its investigation in December 2025 after Meta banned third-party general-purpose AI assistants from the WhatsApp for Business API. It said that it had appeared to be an abuse of Meta's dominant position in European markets. So as an interim measure, as its investigation continues, it has given Meta 5 working days to reinstate access for third-party general-purpose AI assistants to the WhatsApp for Business API under the same terms and conditions that were in place previously. The Commission said if Meta failed to comply with its interim decision, it could be fined up to 10% of its total turnover. But Meta said the decision opened the door for hugely valuable AI companies to gain access to WhatsApp without paying. The row is now just the latest example of the strained relations between European regulators and US big tech firms. Last year, Meta warned of a worse experience for European users because of EU regulations. Elsewhere, the 12th China-Brazil Financial Subcommittee meeting of the China-Brazil High-Level Coordination and Cooperation Committee was held on Tuesday in Beijing, with both sides aiming to set up collaboration on finance, sustainable agriculture and other key areas. Discussion at the meeting covered a wide range of topics, including the global and bilateral macroeconomic landscape, cooperation on banking, insurance, capital markets, and agriculture financing between China and Brazil. Looking ahead, both countries plan to further deepen cooperation in banking, insurance, and securities, and make effective use of the agricultural financing working group under the subcommittee and promote closer alignment between the financial institutions and market entities. Finally, the U.S. has added several major firms from China, including e-commerce giant Alibaba and electric car maker BYD, to a list of companies said to have ties with the Chinese military. The Department of Defense list aims to alert American organizations to the risks of doing business with Chinese firms, but the inclusion does not mean they are immediately sanctioned. The Chinese embassy in the U.S. said the list was discriminatory and said firms from China have strictly complied with the laws abroad. Alibaba's representatives said separately that there was no basis for their companies to have been listed. The risk was announced in a post in the Federal Register, which named some of China's top companies, a move that risks aggravating tensions between Washington and Beijing.
And now finally, let's play. Britam has unveiled 4 professional golfers for the 2026-2027 Professional Golfers of Kenya Equator Tour, reaffirming its commitment to growing the sport in Kenya and the region. The players included Kennedy Abuto, Simon Jogu, John Kagiri and Joyce Wanjiru, who joins a small group of female professionals competing in the year's tour. Britam Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer Tom Gitogo says the company is focused on raising the standard of professional golf by supporting players as they compete at the highest level. The PGK Equator Tour serves as a qualifying pathway to the prestigious Magical Kenya Open and will feature 11 tournaments across the country. The third leg is set for Limuru Country Club from June the 18th to the 21st. After 2 rounds, Samuel Chege leads the standing with a gross score of 278 ahead of Dismas Indiza and Michael Karanga.
More Kenyans make the cut at the Kenya Open. We will see better performances of those players in the Kenya Open.
Competing with the ladies, those ones are. I just keep them aside because I'm a top lady golfer in Kenya right now, as we're talking, and looking forward to participate in LPGA Sunshine Tour in South Africa.
Well, I know football lovers are eyeing the Americas as well as Canada and Mexico for that particular showpiece. We'll wait to see who will win the most prized position in the football world, that is the World Cup, with a 16 down the line encounter with South Africa and Mexico set to start that particular World Cup. That concludes our bulletin this afternoon. Do join us in our subsequent bulletins at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Lenso Dingo. Good afternoon.
Rafiki yetu na soa hii nayo saa nyingine inakuwa kama ugonjwa. Yaani wewe kwenda kama mimi tabu ni yeye bwana. Hata nifanye hivi. Ananiambia nini? Namwambia tuende. Ananiambia mpaka tufuate masanduku, tufuate masanduku, tuende na masanduku. Sasa ufikiri naweza kwenda mahali bila masanduku? Basi tufanye hivi. Hata mimi nafurahi kama wewe napenda, mimi namnoya hapana mbaya. Tufanye namna hii.
Mimi nilikoza mke, nilikoza dobi. Sisi hatukujua hayo. Mimi nachukulia huyu masanduku ilikuwa kama ndugu yangu hasa. Kazi zake zote bibi yangu anaweza kumfanya. Kumbe ni masanduku.
Si usimame pande ile.
Usimame wapi? Rafiki yangu lazima ahudumiwe.